brings us to our communication section and we have our student advisor here tonight. So we'll invite you up to the microphone.
So right now in the high school, we just had our April break, and so we're kind of in that home stretch as we push towards finals and some students who are taking APs soon in May. But mainly right now, the school is experiencing a lot of fun and good times as the junior class is preparing for prom this upcoming Saturday, and the seniors have their senior ball in a couple of weeks. And both of these formal events is a great way for these kids to kind of look forward to more and more as it gives them a chance to like dress up, and for some of them ride in a limo to dinner and to a dance as well with all of their friends and classmates. And in other exciting news, recently, like I think this morning, we had our senior class valedictorian and salutatorian mention. And so the senior class's valedictorian is Ben Kaplan, and the salutatorian is Alicia Louie. Both are tremendous, not only in the classroom, but they round their skills together in music and athletics as well. I know that both of them run cross country and do track and field throughout the entire year, which is incredible that they have time for all of that. And then in other big news, right now the school is hosting the annual blood drive run by the Student Council. And this is another way that I think Fairport shows generous living to the community and having this opportunity that can save multiple lives. And it's just a great way for the students to be a part of something bigger. And the blood drive is Thursday, May 2nd. It's going to be all day in the school gym until 1:30. So if you would like to sign up, you can contact Mr. Gillette or Mr. Byer and get your name on the list. And also this morning, I was walking in, and right in the main foyer, I noticed something that I just had to include, and that is that students were selling lollipops for Lollipop Farms animals, only for $1, which is another great way that the students can show dedication to generous living and giving to others. And it's what I believe are the roots and the foundation of this Fairport community. And I have a quote from Ben Carson, and it states that happiness isn't the result of what we get, but what we give. And everyone has a chance to give, whether it is through the blood drive or even buying a lollipop for $1 in the morning. The similarity to these two is that they all bring smiles to people's faces, knowing that they did good not only in their schools but in their communities, and were able to be generous to others as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Don't go too far. I at least wanted to follow up from one year report last week. You'd mentioned your favorite week was Brotherhood Sisterhood. So
that's right.
How did it go?
Brotherhood Sisterhood week was absolutely amazing. It's definitely something that I feel makes Fairport stand out the most from any school district nationwide, worldwide. And even though it was my last time doing it, it's something that I will never personally forget.
Thank you. Thanks for doing such a good job with it. And where are you going, Will? He's a busy guy. Well, for the board president's report, just mention again, not necessarily for us, but for those who may or may not be watching, those in the room, we are moving over the board docs. Hope we get more and more paperless as we'll have the savings associated with that. I went in as a non-board member earlier today just to try it out as well and see what documents were available, make sure people could get their backup materials to things on the agenda. I could. I hope that means everybody else could, but I encourage people to get their agenda items there as well as any backup material to save us on the paper printing that we've done. Earlier today, if you weren't quite aware, we celebrated our 12 scholar athlete teams and the huge number of students that were on the list. This one's always our least attended, but it made sense. I think Mr. Killian had mentioned we had 18 athletic events tonight, so all those who do more than one team. were not there, and that included our outdoor track because we celebrated indoor track tonight. We had 4 open meetings, right? And 2 at large for the larger community, 2 specific for our staff for the purposes of talking about maintaining our facilities and the potential merging of students from Minerva DeLand and having them here at the high school. Just wanted to remind everyone that we will do our final discussion, I think that's the right choice of words, discussion at our workshop on May 6th. But looking to formally make it a decision, if we make a decision, we'll actually do it at a board meeting. So we had talked a little bit amongst ourselves that things like this that are major, we thought should actually be a board business meeting. And so that will be the 23rd of May, but our final discussion, if you will, in public in terms of reasonings or everything else that's going on will happen on May 6th. And one other thing, if I could share personally with the board, I had an opportunity a week ago during spring break. We had hosted a youth conference for about 100 youth. And I thought it ended up being something that demonstrated to me 21st century learning. And I found it interesting because we ended up doing what was called as Family History University. And it had 10 stations, and for 4 hours, 4.5 hours, youth were able to kind of fluidly pick of their 10 stations what they wanted to do. And when we were sitting down with the adults, and this was mostly run by one of our Fairport's great teachers, Nate Reuter, and so he exemplified his skills at 21st century learning, I thought. But when we sat down with the older people who were going to staff these different booths, there was some degree of hesitation, as you might imagine, thinking of 100 youth running around, loose chaperoning, not a schedule, not 15 minutes here or 30 minutes here, 5-minute break, move on, right? There wasn't any of that. They were going to be self-responsible. And so there was nervousness, and they were asking, okay, what kind of chaperones are you providing? You know, the other adults that are going to be there. And this was a travel thing. We ended up in Cleveland later that day, and blah, blah, blah. So, I could see a bit of the anxiety and was wondering myself even, right? I'm not a professional teacher. How will this day go when we let them loose in the building? And I was in awe. It was truly a wonderful experience to see what I consider, a fluid youth in charge of their taking responsibility for their learning. And some of the feedback that was there was some of that elderly generation, if you will, which is stereotypical for family history, right, who were staffing the booth, was coming back and say, next time let's have them staff the booth and they'll teach me how to use this computer and how I can track down my ancestors. Because they picked it up so fast, they were in awe how fast the youth were picking up the skills that were needed. And so really grateful to Nate Reuter for putting his skills and applying it and allowing then a larger group of people to see, those of us who are older, to also see a very non-traditional way of learning and how they embraced it. And truly was an extremely successful day. I couldn't have been greater. But back to us as a board in terms of us supporting 21st century education and the changing dynamics, getting out of that factory model, if you will, of how we've done education and allowing our staff to open up and to be creative in the way that they apply their art and knowledge, right, of teaching. I just want to encourage us to continue along that line, that path, that education has changed. It should change, right? The tools that we have available to us has greatly changed, and the youth of this day and age are more than capable of picking up those tools and figuring out how to learn and get access to knowledge. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Oh, that's a good point. Thanks. May 21st, right, a budget vote. So for the 2 openings of the board and for the library trustee, there's 1 opening on the library board as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that reminder. Anyway, after that, thanks for letting me to share a little bit of what I thought was an exciting way to look at education. We will go to our superintendent's reports. Mr. Provenzano.
Good evening. Again, Brett Provenzano, proud superintendent of this wonderful school district. I think Will said it best when he said happiness is not a result of what we get, it's what we give, and that's what we're trying to cultivate. And at the end of the day, that success. And I appreciate our building administration here at FHS from providing all these wonderful opportunities, not just at FHS, but in all of our buildings. We really try to cultivate this idea of giving, and I know that's one of the board's main objectives, is to make sure that we're producing high-quality citizens who will make a difference, not only today, but into tomorrow. I don't have a clicker. I mean, are we going to do this? Oh, it's underneath. Oh, geez. Tomorrow is actually Administrative Assistants Day, so we will be honoring our administrative assistants who do so many different things in our schools, and over the next several weeks, we'll also be honoring those who support our students directly in the classroom and even indirectly. So we look forward to be acknowledging all those hands that make us an incredible school district by making a difference. We've been talking about, for the past, that works, but there you go. We've been talking a lot about facilities planning, transportation projects over the past several months, and you know, in the effort of our strategic initiatives, you know, it's much more expansive than those very important initiatives. And you know, we've been talking about giving progress updates, and that's what I'm going to give you, you know, a progress update on our educational programming initiative, which I know the board has received frequent reports throughout the year. We've met with different staff members relative to humanities, student services, special education, and you know, really trying to dig into the things that we're trying to accomplish in that realm. This is where the rubber meets the road, though. This is where our kids are being developed so they can be contributing members, and it's a heavy lift, and it's not a perfect lift. It's a work in progress, and I am proud to say, after many different years in this district, close to 15, that we are on a path towards coherence. We've set these goals, and we've made it a priority. I appreciate our directors, our curriculum instruction team, our building leaders, principals, assistant principals, and of course our staff, our teacher leaders, for bringing these ideas to fruition as we are on this path towards educational programming and making that an opportunity for us to reflect and collaborate on very important goals. We've identified a Fairport 21st century model. We've taken some time to develop a vision and mission statement. The board will be confirming that. They spent a lot of time over the past year using the whole child tenets and comparing the whole child tenets to their priorities. And in the next couple of months, we'll be looking forward to formalizing that product, and that will give a good basis for everything that we do from a curriculum and instruction standpoint as we build upon educational programming. You know, we've had community forums about what it means to be a 21st century learner. We've had Dr. Robert Dillon, who's a nationally renowned speaker in this area of learning environment and 21st century skills, come to our schools, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership into the future. For the first time, we're really focusing on this idea of coherence. In each of our buildings, we've taken this idea of safe and engaged, and we've made them talking points, points of collaboration for our staff. When it comes to high-quality instruction, our administrators are leading that conversation with staff. When it comes to safety and security, social emotional learning, these have been topics of conversation. And coordinating it is a great effort. It takes a lot of cooperation. It takes this idea of systematic thinking, and I'm proud of the efforts that we're making. And you can see that, you know, the yellow is what we focused on this year. This is work that will continue on into the future. And you know, as we move into the future, I'm sure we'll be talking more about social media and its impact on teaching and learning and how our students are living in our community. We'll also be talking about restorative practices and culturally responsive environments into the future. But again, it was a great starting point. I'm really proud of the effort, this idea of consistently talking about the same things in all of our buildings. So if you're at Dudley, Northside, JA, Brooks Hill, Joanna Perrin, Martha Brown, Minerva DeLand, Fairport High School, we had a similar message. Done differently at each level, but it was a similar message, and I'm proud of that, proud of the work, again, of our curriculum and instruction team and our building support leaders and staff. Again, a part of this programming was Educational Programming 2, I call it EP2, and that's this idea of curricular coherence, about reviewing our curriculum, making sure that it's meeting the needs of our students and our staff have the right resources. Now this year, we just started scratching at the surface here. But again, you know, when it comes to vocabulary and word work at the elementary level, when it comes to writing rubrics, making sure that we're all, you know, understanding and having the same quality controls. We spent a lot of time developing science resources for all of our K-5 units this year, our K-5 staff this year. Sounds simple, but it's a tremendous task, and these are the building blocks that will continue to develop this particular initiative. And I said Educational Programming 2, when we're doing these program reviews, and everyone's at a different level. Fairport High School is on a different path, but we're all heading in the same direction versus our elementary schools who haven't had the time to over the past several years with a focus, but we're all trying to get on the same page with that and having it feed into our curriculum review process. And I think our students will benefit from this because that is an educational best practice, this idea of building coherence, having common languages, and that gears our professional development as we move forward. By September 2019, building level curriculum reviews will prompt teacher reflection with a focus on student learning and engagement. And each area or department will be brought into the process wherever they are, and we'll build from that point forward. Initiative number 3 is a program review. You can't have 2 without the 3, the curriculum review and the program review, and sometimes there's overlap. And you can see that fancy little diagram. You can't really read it, but I think that to me speaks to its systems thinking. It's about engaging in systematic capacity where we're setting clear targets, where we're setting staff up to communicate and collaborate around curriculum and programming, where we're monitoring along the way, making sure our PD and the resources that we invest in are consistent. And so you can't go to Brooks Hill, you can't go to Northside and have one group experience one thing and another group experience another thing. We're trying to build that common experience. Now, the art and science of teaching, that's up to the practitioner, and we're proud and excited to build and nurture that within our staff. But these review processes, as we move forward, and we're developing an instructional council that will be setting the course as we move forward into the future. The charter is being developed now. By 2019 in September, we'll be having an instructional council that will help set the priorities and feed this curriculum management system even further. Lots of moving parts to this, lots of moving parts that will ultimately feed our professional development plan as we move forward. EP 1, 2, and 3, educational programming, 1, 2, and 3, as I just mentioned, will ultimately fuel professional development. And each person or professional who comes through our school district, we want to continue to build capacity around our priorities and our initiatives. Proud of the work that we've done, but it's just beginning, and it's hard work, and it's not perfect work. Sometimes you're taking 3 steps forward, and you're going 2 steps back. And with that comes a lot of passions and energy, but there's a strong will to achieve excellence with our educational programming, to build upon and learn from each other and do the best for our students. And I'm proud of that effort, and I'm looking forward to talking more about development of the appropriate practices review that was just completed, and we'll be learning more about that. We'll be talking more about the math review. Again, all these things are being built, and it's part of our strategic plan. And that was something the board had as a priority as I became superintendent, was to make sure that we're communicating our progress and that we're all being accountable to these strategic initiatives. We'll be publishing this, just like we're going to be publishing our facilities planning and our fiscal sustainability as we move forward. So thank you all. Thank you for our leaders for being a part of it, for our staff and engaging it and making it a priority for themselves.
So just a question, Brett. This is great, the review process. How will you know you're achieving success? What are you going to be looking at to kind of put a benchmark into see if this is effective?
So when we talk about the instructional council we'll call it Instructional Council for Excellence, that name might evolve, but, they're going to be the ones that are going to be helping us set the targets, setting clear expectations, progress each year. If you take a look at our management plans, each year we have tasks that are associated with developing the council, curriculum writing, who's going to be curriculum writing, what are our expectations around that, the department review process. We need to continue to build common assessments along the way that are developmentally appropriate. So again, those targets will be established. But before we do that, we need to start developing those developmentally appropriate common assessments. We need to start taking a look at what are high-yield instructional strategies around the whole child and identify them through our curriculum advisory group. But it needs to be measurable. That was something that you guys have always...
As we come back in 6 months or in a year and we say, how did this go? You'll be able to come back with quantifiable metrics in terms of assessments, activities that you've done to accomplish these goals.
Completely. And again, having this instructional council, I'm putting a lot of faith in this council to help. It's going to be a collaborative effort, different stakeholders coming together to, again, making sure that we have clarity and purpose around our board's vision and mission, and who's in the curriculum review process, how our students are performing qualitatively and quantitatively, because I think we're still wrestling with that too. So. Really exciting. NASA Hunch recognition ceremony will be live streamed here Saturday, May 11th at 12 p.m. Here at Fairport High School in room 512. Our NASA Hunch program, it's an opportunity for us. It's a multidisciplinary opportunity. It's STEAM in action. It's critical thinking, inquiry-based, and we're proud of the work that our staff and our students have engaged in with this initiative, and we'll be talking more about that. Next month, they'll be giving a little update on their progress. So thought that was worth noting. May 11th. Thank you very much, and we'll be talking about the budget later and talking about all those important dates that Mr. Forsgren was speaking of earlier.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping the strategic plan front and center and making progress towards it. So we have our treasure and investment update by Matt Stevens. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight we have the Treasurer's Report and Investment Update through February 2019. We had a beginning general fund balance of $67.3 million, receipts in the month of $2 million, and disbursements of $8.1 for a total ending cash balance of $61.2 million. Of the $61.2, approximately $44 million is invested in a mix of T-bills, CDs, and sure cash sweep accounts. So it's about 72% of the cash balance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The consent calendar, which is one where we approve multiple things at once, no discussion related to it, but I do need a motion to approve the consent calendar. Marty first, second, Joyce. All in favor? No, 6-0. Okay, we have a couple of donations. Always grateful and impressed with those willing and donating. One related to Brotherhood Sisterhood Week. My computer's frozen. Do we do a motion separately for those, or are they together? To accept the donations? Separate, okay. So the first donation, Brotherhood Sisterhood, there it did finally come up on my screen. Motion to approve. 3 different organizations recognize and thank the Dudley PTA, Jefferson Avenue Elementary PTA, and Northside Elementary PTA for their donations. Motion to accept. Damon first, Maureen second. Anyone else? All in favor? 6-0. And our second donation for the music program. Is yours faster than mine?
Mine's locking up too.
Is it locking up too? Okay.
Yours is way ahead of mine, actually.
So yours is working? Did your battery die on that paper over there? Okay, now that I highlighted board docs, it's embarrassing me. And I didn't memorize who made the donation or on behalf of who for the music program. There we go. It did. By Lisa Clar. Right. Care of Friends of CSD Central School District. So thank you for that donation. We need a motion to accept.
In memory.
Oh, in memory of Dr. Robert Jameson, grandfather of Cameron Cañado, Fairport High School student. So motion to approve, Kevin, or accept, I should say, not approve, but Damon, second. All in favor? 6-0. We have our personnel actions. Getting kind of slow, but of note there, we, have obviously our retirements and others, but approving our Assistant Superintendent, Doug Loff, for Human Resources, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Did I get it right? Anyway, amongst other things on the list, right? But
Are we going to wait for his speech first?
you'll get used to that, Mr. Loff. Right, so all those under the instructional staff action need a motion to accept. Kevin first, second, Maureen.
And a question, of course.
Yep, questions or comments?
So we have a resignation of a person who's a substitute teacher, and I've never seen a substitute resign. Usually they just, I don't mean to say fade away, but did the person get another job, or why would we have a resignation of a substitute teacher? That seems unusual to me. Do you know anything more about that?
The resignation was, they took another position.
They did get another position?
Yes.
Well, good for them. Okay. I just, it's, you know me, I only ask if it's something I've never seen before, and after this point in time, there's not that many things left to say. And congratulations to all of you as people, the principals and the co-principals who are now got something to do this summer. Nice. That's it for me.
No other questions or comments? Yep, all in favor? One abstention, so 5-0 and one abstention. And I just got booted, but I know the next one's athletics because I wrote it down just before. So, might have to borrow your computer, Kevin, that old-fashioned, right?
Do you want mine?
So motion to approve athletics,
Do you want mine?
do you mind?
No,
Right. It's either computer or, sorry, thank you.
it's okay. We'll look on. I'll find out what he's really doing.
Just 2 items under athletics with resignation and then recognition of volunteer. Or is that the wrong one? It's bouncing around. I'm not even touching it. So motion to approve? Kevin, second. Damon? All in favor? 6-0. Non-instructional and civil service staff actions. Need a motion to approve. Maureen, is that your hand raising?
Yes.
Or okay. Second, Marty. Any questions or comments? All in favor? 6-0. And we have 2 resolutions supporting, the first one supporting paid bus driver training. Motion to adopt this resolution. Joyce first, Damon second. Any comments or questions?
I just think it's a nice idea to address a difficult situation, that we have a problem getting substitute bus drivers, and part of the problem is the time that it takes from the time you interview somebody until you can actually get them hired. And they're just waiting in limbo, and I think it's wonderful that we're addressing that, number one, by giving them the paid training. My question is, do we say if we'll train you, but you have to promise to work for us, or can we get, is that just sort of a good faith decision?
We believe it's a good faith decision, and it also is an opportunity for us to show all the assets and benefits of working in Fairport. So why would anyone want to go anywhere else?
They would love to come to us, that's right. Okay.
Michael, do we have I didn't see on the memo, but a total cost of what this is? Per
Well,
driver,
Per driver, it'll be somewhere around $500.
Okay. And approximately how many new drivers are we training per year? I know that changes.
Well,
but-
right now, we have 3 people in the pipeline who've started since January 1st.
Okay, all right.
And as Maureen pointed out, it does take an awfully long time, not the training itself, With the approval process and finally getting a road test scheduled, it can take upwards of 4 to 5 months from the first time you meet them to when they actually get their license.
Where are the road tests now? I understand you can't just go to the DMV and get a road test.
No,
There's
they're-
some specific issues.
Various spots across New York State. Matter of fact, some of the districts are now going to Pennsylvania because it's actually faster to get it done there.
So thank you for the things you're doing to take some of the pressure off of a difficult situation.
The credit goes to Peter Lawrence. This was his
And
idea.
thank you, Peter. Well, yes.
Other questions, discussions? All in favor? 6-0. The second resolution is related, I suppose, but in terms of wages related to substitute bus drivers as well. So motion to adopt the resolution. Maureen first, Joyce second. Further questions on this one?
I did, I'm not opposed to it. I did find it interesting, though, the concept. And I wonder, is this Peter Lawrence suggesting this as well, or?
Yes, and it is actually very common in other school districts.
Okay.
Oftentimes, people will retire, but they don't want to stop working on so they just want to stop working on a regular basis. So this is a good opportunity to have people who've come through our program and know the Fairport roads and
They're
routes.
already certified?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And like, I think we were saying, it's hard to find subs, and sometimes our schools, our students are left waiting because we're short drivers. So I applaud the creative effort.
And what's it take to maintain that? So obviously we know they maintain their licenses or certifications.
They'll have to maintain their licenses, all the training that goes on. They have to meet all the physical requirements. They'll have to meet everything that they did when they were a contract driver.
Does that wage increase over?
No,
time?
it'll be fixed at that rate.
Any other questions? All in favor? Okay, 6-0. Thank you. And we are to the presentations, and so our first one is an update on our transportation capital project.
Good evening, Mark Esposito with Campus Construction Management Group, here to do the April 2019 presentation for the transportation facility. So just a recap of the overall referendum budget of $11.2 million. We have it broken up into 3 categories. We have $1.8 million for the incidental budget, the construction contingency budget of just over $400,000, and then our contracts in place for the transportation facility itself for the construction work, just under $9 million. And so look at the summary of the current construction contingency budget. Currently, construction contingency budget is remaining as $184,189. We are currently 86% with this project, as you start to see when you're driving by, and we have some photos here. We're starting to do punch lists of the interior of the building, and some more exterior site work has been remobilized and starting to be put down. But our construction contingency is 54% spent. We are tracking $136,000 worth of items pending in our issue log. We still have over $30,000 worth of allowances built into the construction contracts itself. So again, we're still tracking very financially fit for this project moving forward toward the end of the project. So work schedule for upcoming is a lot of finish work, interior of the building. We have punch listed the building itself already for our first time, walked through with all the architects and engineers, and beginning the process of getting a C of O, which is the certificate of occupancy. It's a requirement for being able to utilize the building. So that process is coming up in the next couple weeks. We're bringing in, with the help of Ross, the fiber and the communication lines into the building so we can make that change over here in the month of May to start occupying that building. But as you can see that, we have photos of this, but the bus washes have been installed, the lifts have been installed, the elevator inspection is upcoming in the next couple of weeks to get that done with the communications line in the building. Last week we had asphalt work going on, which will continue here, but that allows us to get buses into the building for maintenance purposes once we open up this facility, so then we could demolish the existing building. So a lot of fun stuff's going on with that. So we have pictures. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, not to enter into a full conversation on this, but I am curious now. Do we have the lights on the fuel island on 7x24?
I
Is that
do not believe so.
No, that was, I don't mean to interrupt,
Yep.
but Mr. Chula and I, he actually called me the one day that they were being tested to see if they were working, and they haven't been on since that time. Right? And we understand the interest, and, you know, we hold similar interests. So that was a one-time event.
So with some photos of the existing facility, so everyone has an understanding where we are. So the lifts have been installed, the above-ground lifts. The in-ground lifts also are ongoing over there. A look at the bus wash within the bus wash facility itself. All the equipment has been installed. A look of the electrical room, which is up for inspection here once we get all of the communication input into the building, which is required for that C of O process. Ooh, that got stuck. That was quick. Thank you for the help. That's good right there. All right, so we have interior windows, thank you. So we have interior windows installed throughout the facility already. Drinking fountains have been hooked up with a lot of the other finish plumbing that's requirements. Look at where the drivers will walk in to the building to be able to pick up their keys. There's a requirement of the transportation facility. Look at the driver's room with all of the pantry installed, including all the plumbing fixtures. A look at the office area itself. They're in the process of going through, making sure touch-up paint's been completed and things for that list. The bathrooms have been completed on both women's and men's. The staircases on both sides of the building, one of them being emergency egress out of the building, have both been completed with stair risers, paint, handrails, everything has been installed. A look from inside the transportation office at the entry of that space. The main entrance canopy is in the process of being completed. It was something that has to get wrapped up as we're starting to work through this. With the asphalt down, we're going to start pouring concrete here in the next week. And just another look at it from another angle. The stonework was completed on the fuel island prior to completing the asphalt work that was done last week. And that is all of it. Any questions? Thank you very much.
I guess the only question I have, because you knew there'd be one, we will be done by the 1st of September, so forth, and all that stuff?
The entire project will be completed by then. By the end of May, we'll be moving people into that facility. The goal is to have the other old facility brought down.
Yes, when's
by
that?
the end of June. So when we remove the fleet off the property, so we can finish the asphalt work. So we still have to put base and binder on that location, and then we'll put top asphalt to the entire facility and allow it to cure for 2 to 3 weeks. We'll bring the buses back on. That way we can minimize any of the divots of buses being parked on it, where each tire, the loads there, by allowing it to cure for that portion of time, will minimize any of the future ponding in those spots. So yes, by the end of the summertime before the school year, the project will be 100% complete. Hopefully we have a nice ribbon cut for it.
So on the building work, on the scheduled update, you say exterior building work, detail work?
Yeah, that's like where we get to the concrete sidewalks and the entranceway.
Okay.
All that work has to be done. We'll wrap up the columns way on the entrance, make sure all the paint's done to that extent.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. With no offense to the presentation we just had, this is a more exciting one coming up, I think, Cass, that you get to introduce, right? Our 21st century learning opportunities that are happening here at the high school.
Oh, my gosh,
Nice.
lots of good things.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to share some of the exciting ways we're putting our strategic initiatives into action. Tonight, we'll share with you 3 projects that have been included in our curriculum as a result of our strategic initiatives. Our first group, who I think is all set setting up, yes, will share with you a project that they've created where they are creating a 21st century learning environment in room 123 right here at Fairport High School. Please welcome Mr. Gianni Busani with his architecture students, Aidan Cornelius, Julia Teague, Zach Izzo, and Megan McDougall.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. This has been quite the experience, quite the journey. It's truly been an authentic learning experience for our students and for myself as well. We've learned quite a bit. Tom Devitt has worked with us behind the scenes extensively for now probably 14, 15 weeks. Bob Clark came in to speak with both of the architecture classes and spoke to the realities of finances and school districts, et cetera. And so, as I mentioned, what started out 14 weeks ago with 2 architecture classes, 6 different teams given different design criteria. We presented to the Technology Task Force Committee. We had a informal meeting with administrators from the district here back in room 123. They provided feedback. We then whittled it down to 2 different teams, my 2nd period class and my 8th period class. And so they are in competition. And it's just been a lot of fun. I can't speak enough about the hard work, the effort, the resiliency our students have shown through the process to realize that their dream of doing a complete makeover of the room was not feasible. And so today, I'm going to show you real quick right here. This is room 123 right now. You can go to the next one, Zach. You can see the big they're not plywood, they're nice wood boards which block lines of sight for teachers. There's an upper level and then a lower level. So that's from the upper level looking down. This is a very unique classroom in 123. So our students, with the help of Brenna Thering and Jackie Driscoll of Design Space Studios, developed their own vision for a 21st century learning space. Each team has their own budget that they developed as well. We will be hearing from Brenna and Jackie about the furniture that could possibly go in from 6 different vendors. They have that information available to us. We'll be meeting with them next week. And then we'd be able to actually provide a total cost for each project, the Period 2 project and the Period 8 project. So that's the backstory. I'm going to pass this on to our rock stars behind me and allow them to present their vision. And we'll start with the Period 2 team. So I'm going to trade spots with Zach.
All right, so hello. So this was our voted on a Period 2 design. We named it the Diverse Learning Space, or the DLS. And
Good definitions.
yeah, just like the LGI. And we'd have a main base layer, as you can see with the 3D rendering. The bottom floor, which right now is just kind of like sort of traditional, clustered desks. We wanted something more modern, something that can be used in different configurations if a teacher wants to move them. So these are all desks that can be configured in different ways. They can go together as one table for group work. They can be moved apart for a traditional group learning with a smart board, or pretty much any way a teacher would like. And we had some we have flat screen TVs on the, instead of maybe like a projector screen. We decided to go a little bit more modern, and we'd have a high seating table around them so that students could plug their laptops into the TVs and do small group projects. Rather than simply work on separate laptops, they can collaborate. And then on the upper layer, instead of the plywood, we went for plexiglass so the teacher can actually see the students, and it lightens up the mood in the room, looks a little nicer. So on the left side, we had a almost lounge-like area for students to collaborate, do a small group project, a more relaxing zone, less strict compared to a desk system. And on right next to it, we have around it we have plants for a more pleasing aesthetic, and we have wall vines on the wall, which would actually be feasible, surprisingly. And then we'd have, to the right, you can see the cabinet storage. And even further right, we have more computer spots and screens, whiteboards, to collaborate. Students could work in a group again, write their ideas on the board, and use the laptops around them. So it's just a flexible space with vibrant colors to enable a brightened mood, because you don't want to walk into a room that's dark and unpleasing. You want a room that's vibrant, energetic, something that really makes you want to learn, and that was really our goal with the whole project.
Any questions for the period 2?
So when you picked that furniture, did you have a model of that? Or how did
Yeah.
you pick that furniture?
So we used one of our 6, so for the 3D rendering, we did one of our 6 distributors. We picked them, downloaded their catalog onto this program. So that's actually what most of their furniture is. But all the furniture is from all 6 different distributors, so that we have a chance of getting a gift of some, so we don't have to pay for all of it. And that could help out financially. So yes, that is all real.
The reason I'm asking you is because I went to the National School Board Conference last month, and I think I was sitting in these kind of chairs, and there was one rendering you had of chairs that I was looking at, and what I liked about them is underneath them is the biggest space I've ever seen to put a backpack.
Yeah.
Because there's no place for backpacks. You come into this room and there's no place for backpacks.
Easily
And this
tripped.
man was, those ones over there that look very, they don't look very, very exciting, but then the ones that I saw had backpack space, they were, and I was told all about the ergonomics of this, people. So I really did a great job of getting the listening to what people were saying about the same kind of thing that you said. When I saw that configuration, I said, I think I've sat in those tables and sat in those chairs.
Yeah.
So,
That's the goal.
because you have to do these things at the National School Boards Convention. So thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know how the wall plants work? How do they get watered? How does that, that's my favorite thing. When you presented that at the other presentation, I loved it.
All right, so I should probably get closer. This vertical garden is actually adorned with Hedera helix, which is more commonly known as English ivy, which is a climber that is extremely hardy, especially in indoor conditions, which doesn't require a lot of sunlight and doesn't require a lot of water. We were
Come to Fairport, it's in the right place.
we have been planning to actually cooperate with the environmental club and see if they would be willing to actually help this specific room to take care of all of its plants, especially the vertical garden. Additionally, there are actually potted plants around the room that would be made up of succulent known as snake's tongue. Very easy to take care of, just like the English ivy.
Very good idea. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the period 8.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Zach. So this is, we call it the Care Cove. Care's a very big part in Fairport, so we came up with that name. We're actually 2 different teams from the period that combined ideas. It was such a close call in the competition, so we combined some areas. So I'll be talking about where we added. So first, right in front of us right now, the tables, with the blue chairs. I just want to touch on, because I know someone asked about the how we were able to 3D print stuff in and make it look like it. Our tables would not look exactly like that. Ours, the ones that we wanted, would be more triangular and much more come together. So it looks like it takes up a lot of space. It'd actually be a lot less. That's one area we added. The other area is right here on our left wall with the two high tops. Just like the other group had, we added two TV areas with a cafe-style high area, so people can kind of have a change of seating. So you're not always down low at the same level. You can get up higher. You can change it. It's a different feel. It helps it change it from the ordinary. And you can always, we have the laptops there, so you can always hook up and use anything. You could project anything and present to a group, a small one, or you could gather people around in case you need to do a big one. And then up in the other area, just like the other group with the lounge area, we added more comfortable seating, bean bags, more comfortable chairs, and just for a nice hangout area. We have a little ottoman table for people to put stuff down, put folders, everything, and just be able to work and hang out up there so they're more relaxed. It's not always go in and pay attention all the time. You can go in, focus on your homework, and just hang out and relax from your busy day at school. And that was mainly what my group contributed. I'm going to turn it over to Megan to speak on her groups.
All right, so my group really wanted to focus on not always sitting at your desk. So my group had a lot of the higher desks where you see they do have chairs, but you can also stand if you'd like, because it's draining to sit all day. And then if you look right next to the door, we have a lot of furniture with wheels on it, so that makes it very difficult to have backpacks on the floor. So we actually have hooks on the wall, so you can hang up your backpack. And we also have a whiteboard up on this wall with for a group space, which a lot of this room is group workspace. So we tried to collaborate with everyone and get input from multiple groups on that. And then also the red and blue panels you see there, they're sound panels because room 123 is such a large room that it can be pretty noisy in there. And a lot of teachers like that from our first presentation. And then right there, right in the corner by the stairs, we have 2 storage carts on wheels for, anything you need. And also we have those 2, they're whiteboard, they're like whiteboard dividers. So if you want to have some alone space or if you want to share ideas, those are there. We also have another cafe style right there. And a few tables just to work with others. Any questions?
I sat in those chairs too, the little ones.
Yeah.
They are surprisingly comfortable because it's considering they go back.
Yeah.
I was interested in those. I did a lot of chair, lunchtime, you have to do fun things.
My question is, as students,
Yeah.
given the current configuration of this room and then the proposed modifications that you're thinking, what impact would this have on you as a student coming in to learn in these environments? What change would it?
It's a lot less lecturing and it's more on the student to learn. It's not really just sitting there taking notes. It's doing your own work and figuring things out on your own. So it teaches you a lot of individuality and it also forces you to work in groups and be cooperative with other people. So.
Great job.
Just to quick wrap up, Kevin Henson allowed both of my classes to use the classroom A, I believe, classroom A in the library. They loved working there.
Yeah.
That environment was really energizing to our students. And so you'll notice both teams have carpet tiled floors, the carpet tile being less expensive. You can put it right on top of the linoleum tiles that are there now. And so that was another big thing. New ceiling panels, just painting the grids, putting new ceiling panels in, and then purchasing 2x4 LED light panels to replace the 2x4 fluorescent lights that are currently there. So those are some of the big things, and of course the acrylic or plexiglass for the railing as well were like big items both teams were very adamant about changing.
So what I've learned from you is that 21st century learning is not always about the things. It's about your environment. It's how you use your environment, how do you utilize space. But they were also talking about things that don't cost money, like collaborating, right? And flexible spaces of, how you look and arrange your furniture. That costs money. I think Mr. Clark explained that very well to you guys. But as we define 21st century learning, I learned from you, that it's not necessarily computers, or, it is how you use your space, how you think about your space, and those ideas of collaborating, communicating in groups together. So I appreciate that. And this group also came on April 8th to our conference day, and they kicked off our conference day in front of staff. So that was amazing. I owe you breakfast pizza. I'm on it. I haven't forgotten.
It's awesome. Thank you.
While we transition, I'd like to introduce our next group of presenters. So we have two more projects to share with you. First up, I'll invite Sandy Hudak, our work-based learning coordinator, to share with you some information about our work-based learning program and how we are helping students become college and career ready. Mrs. Hudak.
Good evening. I'm very excited to be able to share with you the opportunities that we have through our work-based learning program for our students at the high school. The blue handout provides you with an overview of some of the programs and numbers of the students that we've had in the programs over the past few years. Over the past 3 years, over 70 students have participated in internship experiences. Business partners we have worked with include Fairport Animal Hospital, TheraVet, RIT, DeRizio Construction, Conkling and Calabrese, JLD Equine, and many, many others. This has been a great year for building partnerships as well. We currently have 2 students interning at the Cobblestone Stone Art Center. One student is working in their marketing department, while the other student is working in theater production. The Fairport Parenton Chamber of Commerce has been a great community resource for connecting to local businesses. For example, financial advisor Chris Priest of Cetera Advisors and the nonprofit organization Stop the Stigma have both offered opportunities for our students in internships. Especially with our New York State approved CTE programs, business partnerships are critical. I'm looking forward to the architect students participating in an internship with the Design Space Studio. In addition to that, you'll be hearing about the Advantage Federal Credit Union that'll be coming on board, and we will have students participating in internships through them as well. This will be internships that are available to them. The students will be interacting most with an employee from Advantage Federal Credit Union that was a student at East High School and interacted with Advantage Federal Credit Union employees. So it's a great opportunity for our students to really grow within the community. I've just posted today an article on Fairport's Career Exploration Center Facebook page about the benefits of getting internships in high school. Some of the 6 main characteristics and the benefits for our kids include networking with professionals, building their networks at this age, gaining hands-on skills experiences, opportunities to advance. While the students may not need or get the job now, they're building those connections that will allow it going forward in their future. Also, standing out. An internship on the student's resume, even coming from college, will help them get internships in college. They've already have a proven record. We discuss all the time, and I ask them, what do you think it says to an employer that you have completed an internship? What does that say about you? And it's quite eye-opening for them to be able to say, I'm responsible, I'm hardworking, I'm dedicated. Yes, yes you are. So it's a great tool for that respect. It also allows them to define their career goals. I had one situation that a girl loved her music and wanted to be sure that She was going in the correct field for her. And we had her do a job shadow at CP Rochester with disabled students and able to use her music. And she came back and realized that being a music therapist wasn't going to be good for her. It was too repetitive. It wasn't really getting her music out there. It wasn't reaching her personal needs. So it's great for them to learn what works for them, as well as something to take off the list. And we can just count that as money in a parent's pocket when they learn that it's just not quite right. So in addition to the internships, the students also participate in the Career Prep Seminar class. That's a class that is held one letter day a cycle. And with that, we have the students do a comprehensive career project, develop a professional resume so that when they enter college the next year or two, they don't have to redevelop their resume. It is professional and it is employer ready. Additionally, we get their LinkedIn account started. It's recommended that this is the time, this is the age, this is their largest friend base that they'll ever have, we believe, what we know of social media. So it gives them that great start to connect with their peers now that they'll have lifetime business connections with. So through the Career Prep Seminar, as well as our internship programs, we ensure that our students are college and career ready for the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So I see the numbers are expanding.
Yes.
That's great. That's exciting. So do you have capacity to take on more students in this program? Are you turning kids away, or?
I won't turn a kid away. Okay. So we work, sometimes it's, do your parents know? When you get some of the hard areas like medical, if you have a personal connection, it works best. But it's gotten to the point when I go to a party, people go the other way. So I kind of tapped out my resources, but we use whatever ones we can.
And so in terms of internships, I mean,
Yes.
what does that look like logistically?
It is we have 4 New York State approved programs. So an internship is a 54-hour for a half credit or 108 hours for a full credit. The students are required to maintain a journal on their experience, as well as the seminar class goes along with it. And they're also evaluated during the process with their mentor representatives. So we work on building a training plan together. We talk about what will the student be exposed to, what are the goals for this, what areas is it critical that they touch on, and we build that plan around that.
And does it happen during the school day or weekends or after school or?
Their internship?
Yeah.
All of those.
Okay.
Yep,
Right.
yep. Many students do enjoy a senior's early release,
Yep.
and that's a great way to get them to spend a quality afternoon. If it's students that have early release for working, which is also credit bearing, they can divide that up. So 3 days they'll go to work, 2 days they'll do an internship. So
And they're
lots.
presenting to each other, so they're learning from each other?
Oh, yes, that's the seminar class, which is great. It's learning what's gone on at one place, how is the situation handled. In the past, some of the things like alcohol in the workplace, even in different capacities and working in catering and the food business. So we have a lot of great quality discussions related to that workplace and what they see and what they experience and what seems right and what's ethical and unethical and all those great things. Yeah, it is.
So on the community side, you think maybe we're tapped out? Let me preface or back up a little bit, right? When the Book of Lists came out last year or 2 years ago, went down the top 100, Monroe County, and looked at all the ones that were in Fairport. One was an impressive number, and 2, I was impressed at the type of companies, and I just wondered about these types of opportunities as well. And so do you feel like we're tapped out on that side, that the community said this is all we can bear in terms of?
Well, not at all. And I think, and again, I think it's through the personal connections with the families as well. Our Chamber of Commerce is great. If I put out there, hey, I've got a student interested in accounting. Anyone have a need that could benefit from a student intern? And I had a gentleman that's had a small business in bookkeeping. So that student could get in there, get the hands-on, spend the semester learning what they need to learn. So I don't think anything's tapped out. I think it can be challenging, but we'll get them.
I was, last night, had the pleasure of visiting with Rotary, And if your ears were ringing, we were talking about you, Sandy. And I was trying to build those networks for you because there's a lot of interested Rotarians who are passionate about wanting to contribute to our school. So I gave your name. There was an email exchange this morning. So
Awesome.
stay tuned.
Thank you,
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate you presenting
No, thank
during
you.
your
You're known-
update on the superintendent, because that always creates some good music with it, too.
Do we have internship opportunities right here within the district?
Yes, we do, Mr. Tom Devitt.
Yeah,
And we
okay.
have several students that get an outstanding opportunity with our elementary teachers. When interest was really waning in elementary education, I would have maybe 6 students interested. We're back up after 6 years later, 7 years later, and I've got about 12 kids working in, whether it's phys ed in the middle school, elementary ed. We have a student doing a special ed with an adept class here at the high school 9th periods. So kids are really, really getting those hands-on. Our little kids are benefiting, our teachers are benefiting.
And with the credit union coming
Yes.
here, how many kids do you think will be able to?
Segway time, Susan.
So we're hoping to get, sorry, we're hoping at least a couple to start with, and then we'll kind of see. And I won't steal their thunder, so yeah, we're hoping for
I did
it.
want to say that one of the things I mentioned to you earlier, I went to the National School Boards Conference, and one of their speakers was a human resource person who talked about the statistics nationally of the 100 students who will graduate from a high school. Nationally, 70% will go to college, so 30% don't. Of those 70% that go to college, less than 30% will be graduating that college in 6 years. So for his perspective, 60% of the incoming people into the job force are high school graduates.
Yes.
Of that class that started out 70% going
Yes.
to college, not all of them will make it.
Right.
Therefore, for a human resource person, he's looking at high schools as being key to what we need to have the resources we
Yes.
need for the workforce. And in the past, we've always said, oh, college, college, college. And now there's a whole, and I don't need to tell you because I'd be speaking
Yes.
there's a whole different look
Yes.
at what it is we need to
Yes.
have for our
Yes.
students when we talk about this whole
Yes.
21st century learning piece.
Yes.
Very
So the past 6 years, I've been on the Finger Lakes Advanced Manufacturing Enterprise Committee, and that's been the plight of that enterprise, which has over 60 businesses that are part of it, and the idea that they cannot fill the positions. And we know of those students that have great intentions of attending college, but that don't find it's right for them. Yes, I spent $20,000 for one of those kids, so I can talk the talk. So each year I do a field trip in careers in construction. There's going to be a lift and move field trip coming up. I've got a great relationship with a couple of those manufacturers, Optimax being one. They will take our kids in the door. The parents welcome to tour with it. So we've got those kids out there fully aware. I'm communicating all the time with our special ed and whoever thinks that a kid may just not be sure they're going to, or if I put it to the parents, if they're going to do a gap year that turns into a gap decade. So that, we can cover all these kids so that they will have something. Definitely.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank
you, Sandy. Thank you for your passion and your connections and all that you do. Lastly, not to steal their thunder, our Director of Special Areas, Susan Walls, and our business teacher, Regina Nichols, will share an exciting opportunity that we've partnered with the Advantage Federal Credit Union.
While Regina's passing that out, I want to give you just a minute of background before she tells you a little bit more about the credit union. But in the fall of 2014, Regina and Sandy brought forth a proposal to partner with a local credit union to establish a school-based credit union inside Fairport High School. The intent was to educate students in financial literacy and provide a deeper understanding of basic principles and practices of the financial services industry. This hands-on learning experience would support students' understanding of fiscal compliance, risk management, as well as partnering with credit union staff to run the branch. We initially worked with the Advantage Credit Union to get a deeper understanding of the opportunities and pitfalls associated with an in-school credit union, as they had experience running branches in other local districts. After collecting additional information from across the country on school-based credit unions, we coordinated with Matt Stevens in putting out a request for proposal to 4 local credit unions. After completing the process, we entered into an agreement with the Advantage Credit Union. And Regina is going to provide you with the details of where we are in the implementation of this process.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. You know, before I begin, I just can't say thank you enough to the board for your support and your encouragement of spreading financial literacy. As you know, it is so important to all of us to have that financial security and knowledge, and especially on the note that the fact that most kids, this is all they're going to get, is in high school. In my opinion, Fairport Central School District is now paramount and a leader for all suburban school districts in their support of financial literacy. I think other school districts should take note because it's so important. So where are we today? It's been 5 years in the making and a month and a half of implementation, so I'm bringing you up to speed. The Advantage Federal Credit Union has a proven record with student-run credit unions. They've been doing it for years. I would never suggest bringing in anything that hasn't been proven. They are doing business in the likes of Rochester City School District, as well as RIT, University of Rochester, and so forth. I have to say that the students got together, and our credit union, we are proposing it to be named the Raider Union. So there's an example of the new logo up there. So it says, "Watch your treasure grow," hinging and feeding off of the pirate logo. Thanks to your support, we are now moving ahead with our initial stages of implementation and empowering teens with real-world opportunities. It's going to enhance their personal and professional portfolio. Everything they do regarding this can help enhance them and just make them look that much better when they do apply for a job or for college. We've officially kicked off our new community collaboration with Advantage Federal Credit Union. So the first flyer you see there on top was what we used to invite students to become founding members. And again, that's something that they can put on their resumes. So for example, we try to communicate with them that if you are involved with something of this magnitude, number one, you're part of a team. It's yet another connection with the school district. You can build your resume, build your experience, train to work in the financial industry, work with professional mentors. For kids that transportation is a barrier and they can't get out to get those internships and mentorships, guess what? Now it's in-house. So it's sort of cool. Responses from our students have been phenomenal. We are pulling from all kinds of interests. I've got math students, architecture students, design students, business students. These are all kids that are skewed towards those things. And it's just, I mean, a month and a half in, we have design students collaborating with business students. The piece that was just up on the board, one of our design students did the logo after many reworks, and this still is a work in progress because we're sort of new. And they collaborated with our marketing students, just like we would in the real world when we're trying to run a business. You have two different disciplines that have to learn to work together and create. So it's pretty cool to see. I tell you, it's really neat. And this is just the first month and a half. So I just can't, I'm very excited about it, and I can't thank you enough. Just so that you know, the business is going to be located in the former bookstore, and it's going to be open on Tuesdays and Thursdays during lunch periods, so just twice a week, just enough to give people some experience. We also do have an architecture student that's helping with the layout of the bookstore to help make it more functional, with grounds, building and grounds, hopefully, and Advantage Federal Credit Union funding anything we need. Hopefully it's going to be a really impressive space, because I expect that other suburban school districts are going to want to come in and take a look at what we're doing once word gets out. And the cool thing about this is that it doesn't just incorporate, you know, the average student. This opportunity is incorporating opportunities for our urban suburban students, our ADEPT students, our alternative education students that may not have that family support to go ahead and learn about finances. Furthermore, our FIDM and Business Club has absolutely taken a lead on this. The kids are just fired up. They're very excited, and by the way, tomorrow, Advantage Federal Credit Union is going to be releasing press releases on our collaboration. I asked them to hold off until you are all informed about what was going on. And the kids are super excited to see their initiatives in the news. So that's heading your way. Word is out, because now we've drawn interest from prominent speakers. The former federal bankruptcy judge, Judge John Nympho, contacted me and came in. He's already spoken to our personal money management classes. The kids absolutely loved him. But what's neat about him is that he is the founder of the national society. It's called CARE, Credit Abuse Resistance Education. So it's a national program. And he is fired up about coming back in. And he's also asked me to talk to you about perhaps bringing him into the middle schools as well. You know, planting that seed of financial literacy. You know, because oftentimes if you're financially happy, everything else sort of falls in place. You know, your relationships and everything else, honestly. So we all know that, us adults. So what are our next steps? So we are trying to solidify informational materials, train students. That's our next step. Arrange for our physical space, again, buildings and grounds, and trying to collaborate more with Advantage for financial backing, getting tables, chairs, and so forth. And honestly, enhancing our partnerships with the community. We already had someone willing to put a piece of glass in the door and fix it, and so forth. It's just funny, like everybody. So it's really snowballing. So I can't thank you guys enough. And the winners here, honestly, are our exceptional students and our Raider Union. So I thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you for your passion for the 5 years. I know you've been excited about it, and it's so good to have you present it now and have it come to fruition.
We've done a lot in a month and a half, I have to say. The kids have really kicked in.
So when is the ribbon cutting ceremony?
We're going to be opening in September. Okay. In September will be a ribbon cutting.
All right. And then and who will you be taking deposits from?
So we are hoping to take deposits from teachers, right, or people that work in the building, as well as students that are interested in opening up accounts. Mm-hmm. And that paperwork and that introduction to the students is going to probably happen in my personal money management class, and then, of course, with our marketing efforts as well.
Yeah, I love the way you've drawn kids from different classes and disciplines to really collaborate around this activity.
But it honestly gives us a chance to mirror what happens in the real world when you run a business.
Yeah. There's a lot of different disciplines that go into a bank, right?
Exactly. You've got to be able to work with a ton of different people and ask for changes tactfully and truthfully and not put too many exclamation points. So there's a lot of small lessons all in this that I've been doing over the past month and a half with our kids. So I'm really proud of them. I'm super proud. So it's FHS Raider Union, watch your treasure grow. That's our tagline, as for now. So I thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you for sharing another example of what 21st century learning looks like.
Yeah, and I'd love to come back in the fall with our student staff and, late fall to give you an update on how it's kicked off. Thank you again very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of money, and perhaps not as great or as exciting as what we've just listened to, but how do we support such wonderful programs, right? So do a good job. You got tough competition. He's dragging you into it too, Matt.
I'm back again, and I think you said it perfectly. When we talk about all of our programming, we talk about the wonderful clubs that are expansive throughout all of our districts. We have over hundreds of clubs. We have a commitment to this idea of what 21st century learning spaces look like. Again, opportunities that put kids in front of each other to make a difference, not only in Fairport, but in the community and beyond. It's a reflection of our priorities. The dollars are intentionally spent, and that's one of the biggest things. I remember a conversation I had with Ms. Knupp a few years back. We were talking about budget, and we weren't even talking about money. We were talking about our priorities, and tonight was a great reflection, an intentional reflection on how we try to see that in motion, and it was a great opportunity to learn from everybody. I'd like to thank Mr. Stevens, Assistant Superintendent for Business, his team. We see Mr. Eckert back there, our directors, our principals, who are part of this process of building a budget. It takes a whole team. I'm really grateful for their great efforts to make sure that they're listening and the priorities are put into place, and the board's expectations are coming to fruition. The budget goals, there's a story to the budget goals. They just didn't appear. There was lots of work. There's a district planning team, multiple conversations with stakeholders. The Board of Education had conversations throughout the year about their priorities, integrating them in with what they're learning from the community and the community meetings. The Audit and Finance Committee works on our priorities and helps us set the course so we can have an intentional program that meets the needs of our community and, of course, our students. And that's what this budget is about. It tells a story about the board's commitment to instructionally and developmentally appropriate class sizes. There's dollars specifically added to make sure that, especially at the elementary level, we're protecting those class sizes, making sure that there's opportunities for connections and relationships to form. It's an investment early that pays itself through our students' educational journey. Mental health and the unique learning needs of our students. We're proud of the program that we have. You'll see a commitment to the needs of our students, how that's changed in this budget. There's a response to that, and we'll get through that in a little bit. A variety of ways to engage students. We saw that tonight, and this was just a small example, and it was a small example from our architecture to our business classes to Sandy Hudek's passion around school to work. This is being played out, and not just our high school, but our middle schools and our elementary schools as well, ways to engage students. Educational priorities. There's commitments in this budget that speaks to educational programming, the things that we're specifically going to do to take our initiatives to the next level. And this idea of maintaining our aging facilities. I'm really proud of this. The board really understands. They've studied the building condition survey, and there's a commitment in this budget for dollars associated with intentionally addressing the maintenance needs of our buildings. So the community can see it. It's important to the board, and that's part of this budget process. We've talked about our reserves, making sure that sustainability efforts are well in place, well into the future. And those are our budget goals, and that feeds into our priorities. And the priorities, again, this idea of whole child, we're really defining it here in Fairport. We're really putting labels and identifying what we see as whole child, and we're trying to develop common language around that. Resources from professional development to chairs and flexible seating and desks to allocate support for our students and staff. And the changing mental health needs of our students are also a part of this as a priority. And it's all in the name of fiscal sustainability, maximizing efficiencies, and trying to do it in a responsible and responsive way, and to make sure that we're protecting our investments through risk management. I'm going to start the presentation off to talk about our three-part budget, and then Matt's going to walk us through the home stretch and talk about how we're actually going to pay for it, and I'll wrap it up with some details about the actual budget date. We've spent time this past year, as we've talked about multiple different occasions, and that's the good thing about this. None of this is a surprise. We've been talking about enrollment for the past 2 years, and we've studied enrollment, and we really have a good idea of what our projections look like. For the first time in many years, we have high levels of understanding that we're we're at a place where we're going to level off. Within 5 years, we're only expecting this number to change by, through our projections, approximately 5 students. And again, that's an approximate, that's a projection, but we have stability. And that's important when you're running an organization, when you're trying to plan for the future, and that creates the much needed understanding throughout the organization that, the amount of students that we've lost over the past number of years, it's been pretty significant. Current enrollment is around 5,700, and we're going to be, again, leveling off over the next several years in that 5,628 number. The 5-year average of our graduating classes will be around 440 to 490, right? And we're graduating, and we have been graduating 500 and above, and that's when we're talking about the declining enrollment. And again, for the past, from 12 years, consecutive years, we've lost a significant number of students, but that is decreasing, and we're going to level off as I was just sharing. Class size goals, again, a priority of the Board of Education, and I think it's something that our community expects. Our staff and our students benefit from. We believe that these early these are early investments into making sure that our students have the right foundational skills and the right environments to learn. And as you go up to second and third grade, you'll see it gradually increasing incrementally in responsible and responsive manners. In fourth and fifth grade, you'll see this budget at Brooks Hill, Dudley, and JA. You'll see that we are actually increasing sections there and losing a section at Northside, and you'll see our staffing reflect those changes. And again, the board's commitment to class sizes at the primary level is a reflection of that, and that's a community expectation as well. Class size standard at the secondary, we're really working within the ranges of 24 to 26 students to make sure that there's opportunities to collaborate, that the connections can form. But we also realize that there are anomalies. There's capstone classes, there's specialty classes where safety is a requirement, where equipment is at a premium, and we will adjust class sizes accordingly. So we realize we stay within 24 to 26, but we wholeheartedly understand that that does fluctuate depending on the particular course. Overall, we're going to dig into the program, the administrative and capital components of our budget, and it's reflect a 2.47% increase over last year's budget. If you delineate the programming costs, the 2.48% increase, that's all the costs associated with student instruction. And if you look at that, this is a good chunk. It's $100,000 of our $132 million budget. And this is where we speak to our priorities from the courses that we offer, from the co-curricular activities that our students engage in. It'll be all wrapped up here. It's 75% of our budget. Breaking that down a little bit further, you'll see that in general instruction, again, that's you'll see the class size commitment. You'll see 2 additional staff members added there. You'll see summer school. There's a significant 24.49. That's just a shifting in coding and where we're paying it. That's not an addition to the budget per se. The library media specialist and computer instruction, that is extending the life of our reserves. You'll see a 7.4 or 7.89% increase there. The board has made a commitment to keeping our reserves and using them and putting the dollars in the budget, the general fund dollars, to support our computer instruction. And that's why you'll see a bump there. Pupil services, 3.3% increase. That's where our psychologists will be. That's the increase related to the 2 psychologists that we're adding to support the mental health needs of our students. An overall theme, you'll see employee benefits in all the categories, and that includes our flexible spending, our HRA accounts, our unemployment, our life disability, employer contributions, retirement increments, etc. That's down overall, and you'll see that throughout this presentation, and here in this budget line, it's minus 1.45%. Sorry. Here's the employee benefits sheet. Again, New York State retirement contribution. It's rate or contribution as a percentage of salary. The ERS, or the Employee Retirement System contribution rate, is estimated to decrease from an average of 14.9 to 14.6. TRS, that's the Teacher Retirement System, contribution rate is estimated to decrease from 10.6 to 8.86. Now, these fluctuate through the years. Mr. Stevens and I spent time this morning actually going through it since 2014 to present. You'll see increases in some years, you'll see decreases. So, it's really based upon the actuaries and the stock market, and Mr. Stevens has a really good handle on how that's, I don't want to jinx you, but how that's working out, Stock market. It's, well, again, it's it's based upon the stock market. So if we're anticipating a recession, right, that may impact this, and that's why we have to protect these numbers, because if we knew that, we would be in a different.
Yeah. Can you, what's like over the last 10 years? What's the maximum rate?
Well, we have. Matt, do you want to jump in? We have 13.3% in 2000. We didn't go back 10 years, but we had 13.3% in 2015 and 16. That was.
I think they've been higher, 19 and 20 sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had to look.
Was that 17?
ERS has been close to 20.
That's 17. So 14 and 15, it was 17.5%.
So the bottom line is that when the stock market is struggling, the school districts are paying more for this because we have to make up the delta.
I don't want to make that leap, but that's.
High level.
Yeah.
It's our job. I would think, as a board, we give consideration, now that we finally have state approval to create a TRS system, which will be, hopefully, unless people are going to vote against it, a reserve, a TRS reserve, that we pick some kind of number. For lack of a better example, I would say 10%, right? If we pick 10% and we budget that every year, it makes budgeting a little easier. When it drops below, as it does, any excess would go to the TRS reserve that year. When it goes above, we draw out of TRS reserve, but then it helps make our budgeting efforts more predictable. And maybe it's 11%, maybe it's not. I'm just saying, as an example. But I think now that we have that type of approval, which we've been asking for years at the state legislature, that we consider it as a budget technique in order to smooth out such fluctuations that you're talking about. So correct, and there's some ideas around that we'll talk about here at the next Audit Finance Committee, where, how do we start seeding that and have it for future recessions?
Especially with the 2% tax cap.
I think if you look at the last round, the last major recession that we experienced, right, we not only paid through debt elimination, where a lot of money was taken away, but we had to pay much higher rates these funds as well. So
At the same
kind of
time.
double whammy.
That's right.
And we haven't even talked about foundation aid, which Mr. Stevens will be talking about. We haven't received our full allotment of foundation aid in the tune of close to $79 million since 2007 and 2008. So you add that to that conversation. Yep. Thank you for allowing me to bird walk on that. Summary of major staffing changes. And again, here's part of our story. Here's part of our commitment that the board has made it a priority to class sizes. Special education, through our Committee on Special Education, 2 additional staff members will be added based upon our special education process. We have behavior specialists that we're looking to support the mental health needs that are occurring in all of our schools. We feel like this additional staff will be able to serve as a professional developer, someone to offer professional development, someone who can work with families and networks of support throughout the community, and the needs there. And if you look inside our schools, you'll see our staff working through many of these. So this will be much needed and appreciated support. In the name of our educational programming initiatives, which we were talking about earlier in my report, and what Ms. Wheeler, shared with her staff and students who came. We're going to be allocating at actually no cost to the district. We're going to be using federally funded grants to support instructional coaches for STEM and humanities. The administrative component of our budget went up 1.94%. That's everything administration. That's central office, that's our district level administrators, our building level administrators, the costs associated with those line items. Breaking that down even further, you'll see that there's a decrease in the Board of Education's line as a cost containment measure, with a part-time clerk. And you'll also see other central services, that's notable at 5.81%. That's BOCES administration costs have risen. We use BOCES, we rely on BOCES, we have a wonderful partnership. As we're looking at cost containment and maximizing BOCES aid, there is a cost of using them, but we will see that on the revenue side as we move along through the budget process. And you'll see employee benefits coming to fruition with a negative 2.5%. Capital, costs associated with operating and maintaining our school facilities, our bus purchases, and you'll see that there's some movement with debt service as debt has come off. That will impact this line item, and you'll see the details associated with that. That 17.4% increase speaks to the commitment of putting right in the line items mechanical maintenance improvements, approximately $930,000, $800,000 for maintenance of our facilities, and an extra $130,000 for our phone communication system is right in that line, and that's why you'll see that budget line increase because it was directly allocated to that budget goal and priority. Employee benefits, another decrease. I just like pointing that out. It feels good to have a negative in there. It's same thing with our transportation center or our bus purchases are down 0.268%. Debt service from a 2001 project, approximately $608,000 is coming off the books, and you'll see that will help with this budget as well. Yes. New money. Yep. That's right. Yep. Well, it was about, and I hate using this word, but it's transparency. It's about saying there's maintenance issues, and we've been talking about our maintenance. We've been talking about our building condition survey, and we're saying we're going to put dollars and directly associate it to that line item. It's a percent change. It's not an addition. Correct. And our three-part budget with program at 2.48%, our administrative at 1.94%, our capital at 2.83%, gives us a grand total of an increase of 2.47% overall budget to budget. Now Mr. Stevens is going to talk to us about how, I like saying this, how we're going to pay for this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Provenzano. That's right. Good evening, everybody. So the next piece, as Brett mentioned, is talk about the revenues in terms of the funding district receives. So the two biggest pieces will be the state aid and the property tax. We have sales tax from Monroe County and some other revenues, charges for services, facility use fees, interest earnings, admission fees, and so forth. And then the last piece is looking at the reserves and fund balance in terms of how that balances the revenue side of the budget. So the first piece is just to give a quick summary of the state budget that was adopted. And you see here overall an increase of $961 million for school aids. How that breaks down is you have foundation aid, where you see the $618 million increase. What that means for Fairport is about $236,000 increase to our foundation aid. Foundation aid being the general operating aid that schools receive for programs. The next piece is the expense-based aids. That's $342 million. For Fairport, that's about $351,000. Now, that's aid based on expenses in the 2018-19 school year, driving 2019-28. So, depending upon where exact expenses fall at year end, that'll drive could change the estimate slightly, but overall it's approximately $351,000 and looking at projections and trends for the district. A couple other pieces, property tax caps permanent, I'm sure we've heard that. Spoke about earlier, authorization for schools and BOCES to establish a TRS reserve fund. It's actually a sub-fund within the Employee Retirement System Reserve. It doesn't combine the 11 expense-based aids into services aid. We talk about the transportation aid, building aid, BOCES aid, all those excess costs, library material, hardware, software, textbook, all those pieces still remain on their own with their specific formulas. STAR changes. Now, this piece here is interesting because it actually, in terms of funding for the school, the district will still receive the levy. However, it will have an impact, and I think it's important just to highlight two main pieces. The STAR exemption, which is that credit that you would see on a property tax bill for the school, is capped at 0% growth with a new income threshold of $250,000 down from $500,000. STAR credit is that other piece that was put into place a few years back where instead of the exemption taking place on the property tax bill, it's a credit being issued by the state. Homeowners had to apply for it. It's essentially the dollar amount flowing from there. So now that has can still grow by a maximum of 2% for both basic and enhanced STAR. Simple recommendations just for folks to take a look at the Office of the Property Tax website, contact assessor. I think that'd be important, and just in looking at that piece. There is communications out on the property tax website for the state. And then building condition surveys, the state will start staggering those beginning in January of 2020. As we know, those are every 5 years for schools, and the state ed will start to stagger those pieces.
So I have a question, Matt, and I hate to ask this because I'm asking you to do math quickly. The state, I just looked at this number, increased its formula 3.64. Can you give me a ballpark about how much of a percent increase did we get in Fairport? Did we get 3.64 like the rest of the state is allegedly getting, or any thoughts on what our increase might have been? Or if you can't do that quickly, because I know you have to go back and look at all the variables.
I want to estimate it at 1.45%.
I was thinking it was probably half of what
It's up on the screen.
My guess would have been half. But
So,
you're even less than that. So I just, we see these numbers and we say, okay, the state gave 3.64 and whatever, and we're limited to 2% and whatever. But these are not the same numbers.
No.
This is not what Fairport is getting.
Correct.
That was my intention for that particular question, is I saw that highlighted number, but I'm always interested in, so what's Fairport's numbers? And we are not getting that 3.64, we're getting less than half.
Yep, it comes out to less. So combining the $236,000 and the $351,000 is a total state aid change of $587,000, or as I mentioned before, about 1.45%. Foundation aid, it's about a 1% increase. Our transportation, BOCES, and building expense-based aid, it's about 2.7. Excess cost, which would be our.
So you did know all those numbers,
I
right?
did, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't know them. Excess cost aids about 1%, and then other categorical aids down about 0.5%. Some of those pieces in the other categorical would involve our hardware, software, library material, and textbook aid. Those are enrollment driven, so those pieces will continue to drop each year in terms of the aid pieces there.
So Matt, the impact of the individual STAR exemption growth capped at 0%, which essentially says no growth, right?
No growth in the exemption on an individual's property tax bill. So that means if you look, I believe the number was about $696. So they're saying no growth on that piece, which will mean it just shifts the assessor's office, county, they work to do the calculation, and it gets shifted to the levy itself.
And you're saying the individual income was capped at 500,000, now it's down to 250.
Correct.
So there should be less exemptions because of that.
Could anticipate. That's why I said contact the assessor, take a look at the Office of Real Property Tax website. They've got some good information out there for individuals and homeowners.
these are individual, is this individual by, or is it?
Household.
Household.
Households, yep. So here's just a brief history of the district's state aid. You can see some growth over the years, larger jumps in previous years related to gap elimination, adjustment, restoration. Overall, just on a side note, $236,000 foundation aid increase. BOCE's aid, just giving you a little bit of a history in terms of the combination of the tech reserve spending as well as general fund. So you see in 2018 and 2019, $736,000 from the tech reserve in 18-19, with the balance of $164,000 in general fund, and then for 19-20, $800,000 out of the for a total spend, $464,000 from the reserve. So that's again, Mr. Provenzano mentioned before. You saw the increase there of about $172,000 for general fund in terms of ease and reliance off the reserve. So slight decrease over the years of $100,000 in total spend. So it has a minor impact to the aid because of spending less on those pieces, but overall it allows easing off the reserve over the next few years. The next piece is we'll talk about the property tax levy. I think what's commonly known as the tax cap, not always necessarily 2%. The 2% is a cap on the CPI growth. With exclusions and the tax base growth factor, we can see that the Fairport's tax cap is actually over 2%. And a big piece of that is the growth factor of 1.0236. That's a number assigned by the state. That would be growth in the tax base within the town. And as you flow through, you see the exemptions in the prior year are taken out of 1.9 million, the capital levy exemptions of 1 million in 2019-20, for a total percentage change of 3.28%. So anything up to 3.28% would be actually tax cap compliant for the tax levy for 2019-20. So here's an overall list of the projected revenue. We'll get into some of the specifics with the assigned fund balance and reserves. But again, state aid, 1.45%. The tax levy, 2.4 million or 3.28%. That's tax cap compliant. Pilots, which are payments in lieu of taxes. Those are any agreements that through the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency as well as the Fairport IDA, excuse me, that the district receives payment in lieu of tax on the assessed roll. Sales tax and other, a big portion of that is our sales tax from the county. The district receives a share of any county sales tax. It's approximately $5.5 million. Federal Medicaid, our assigned appropriated fund balance of $3.9 million, so no change there. Commitment to remain stable in the utilizing funds from the 18-19 school year to fund the 19-20 revenue side of the budget. Our transfer from debt service fund, we've committed approximately $400,000 each year as we utilize the debt service fund to offset any local share of debt that helps with the tax levy itself and brings that reliance off of that a little bit. The additional $104,000 is related to premiums in which the district receives on short-term borrowings. So when a district goes out for a bond anticipation note on the transportation project, for example, there's a premium that the district's receiving that brings down the net interest payment. So the district, we put that away in the debt service fund for 1 year until the debt becomes due, and then transfer it back to pay off that interest in the following year.
Matt, this sales tax and other, it seems the same for 19-20 as it was for 18-19, 6.637 million. Is that an estimate? I mean, it's not an actual, is it?
If I keep spending money, will it help?
Yeah, the projected,
In
yep,
the
projected
county,
revenue
right?
for next year, not necessarily actual.
And how much variability do you see in that number?
It can vary. I mean, it truly can in terms of the sales tax coming in. We've seen lower years and higher years than 5.4 million.
You'll see that, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But you'll see that the governor, as of the last couple of years, has reserved the right to withhold funds based upon that number there. It hasn't happened. It's happened in some years, I believe, but it hasn't happened recently.
He's reserved the right to take money if the whatchamacallit goes down, the stock market goes down. He made that comment earlier this year. Yeah. He's got lots of rights, it says.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, the next piece, the assigned reserves. So that would be transfer from the budgeted transfer from the employee retirement system reserve, unemployment insurance reserve, as well as our tax certiorari reserve. And again, remaining stable on those and in terms of balancing the budget for
Why are they
2000.
blue? The transfers, why are they blue? Just you made.
Just alternation of the
Just
colors
thought.
between lines, that's
Okay,
right.
I just, thank you,
21st century.
appreciate that one, but at least they're not red, that's the part that I was worried about.
Okay, next to see a breakdown of the fund balance and reserves. How we get to the balanced budget. So we start with a budget of $132 million. Our total revenues before the reserves and fund balance of $126 million. Then the transfer from the debt service fund of $504,000, coupled with the $5.2 million from the assigned reserves and fund balance, gives us the revenue side of $132 million. As a percent of the total budget, you can see there's been a decline in the assigned fund balance and reserves usage over the years, which is a good trend in terms of trying not to rely on those at a high percentage. So you can see naturally, even though the dollar amount stayed flat from 2018-19, due to a budget increase, you see a slight decline in the percentage. And here's a quick breakdown of the assigned fund balance and reserve piece I mentioned before. You can see the three pieces with the tax certiorari, unemployment, and retirement contribution. You can see in years past, there was a higher commitment in the retirement contribution, and now that's down to approximately $1.2 million. And what does this all mean in terms of a tax rate? So assuming 2018-19 assessments, again, last year, if we took a look, we saw a large decrease in the tax rate due to the large reassessment in the town of Perrington. But as we're going through the process, we always assume the 18-19 assessed values until those, the full tax base is finalized by the town. So it's approximately a 72-cent increase per thousand.
Matt, just to take you back a couple of slides on the appropriated fund balance reserves. We had goals of reducing this percentage reliance on fund balance and reserves. This year, we made a conscious decision to tap the brakes on that in the rate of how we're slowing that. I just wanted to point that out. This budget is in a big way, is hinged upon that metric right there, and it was a conscious decision that we made with your guidance, Brett, to really slow that down this year. It allows us to invest in key areas of the budget that you talked about, Brett. So I just think that's important to point that out.
Yep, it's a good point. Yes, as we saw 17, 18, 18, 19, there was the $1 million commitment to decrease reliance, and we made a conscious decision to ease that off for 2019-20. So thanks, Damon.
We did that because we're having a conversation about our facilities, possibly repurposing facilities, looking at our current district offices. So we understand that, we're on the cusp of making some decisions that will, even add more clarity. But we thought it was a time to tap the brakes. The past couple of years, our district and community has been actually gone through a lot, so.
Okay, and this is, again, I touched on this slide before, but just a little bit of the history in terms of the school budget, the tax levy, and the rate increase. You can see in most cases, the rate increase itself has actually come in less than the tax levy increase. Again, once assessments are final, is when the district will do the tax rate calculation in the summer.
This is a strange year that the levy and the rate are the same thing. Is there any particular reason for that, or it just worked out?
So each year on the budget presentation, you would see the following year's budget to have those two amounts the same, the tax levy and the tax rate. Yep, so right now it's assuming that the assessed value, the total tax base is still the same as 2018-19. So until that final tax base comes in, if the tax base increases, then the rate will decrease as an inverse relationship. If the tax base decreased, then the rate would increase. But the levy itself would still continue to be the same % increase because that dollar amount's not changing in terms of what the district will collect for the budget. And finally, the proposition, in addition to the budget vote and candidates, will be a reserve expense out of the capital technology reserve of $464,000. Again, that's easing off. This year we were at $736,000, so continuing to ease off reliance on that reserve itself. So next, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Provenzano for the dates.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. May 7th will be our public hearing, 6:30 here at Fairport High School, right in room 512, where we are today. On May 21st, there'll be the budget vote and board elections. There'll be 2 candidates vying for 2 Board of Education seats that are open. The budget vote will be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Johanna Parent Middle School, and in between today and May 21st, there'll be plenty of communications, commentator coming out. Again, the public hearing on May 7th. I'll be visiting with our merchants, as I did our Rotary yesterday. I'll be visiting at the Parenting Community Center. I'm speaking with our senior citizens who attend, and just to continue to talk about the budget and the things that are occurring in our school district. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. We've talked many times, I think, about a budget should be able to tell our story, should be able to show our values, and having the 21st century learning opportunities, whether you're good or just got lucky, that was a great way to start and allow us to segue into it.
Whether you're good or just got lucky.
No, but thank you, because, and you started out that way, talking about the hundreds of clubs and the student opportunities, mental health support, class size, everything that we're trying to do. This is our story in the budget that we're presenting to the public, and that we will, I guess, have to adopt here, right? So, thank you.
Thank you, and
Thanks,
thank you
Matt.
for the clarity and support of this work.
So that is all of our presentations. Any other comments before moving on and our action items? So the very first one, then, a motion to approve the budget that will be presented at the public hearing on May 7th and voted on May 21st. Motion to accept. Marty, second. Joyce, any other questions or after that presentation? All in favor? 6-0.
I will just comment that I think the
Too late.
budget, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think the process of building this budget this year, and it flowed nice. It was a good process, good information sharing, timely. It felt good this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, property tax report card. It's hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at, and the public can look at as well. Through board docs, motion to accept. Kevin, Marty, second. And any questions or comments on the report card? All in favor? 6-0. Resolution for proposed capital project. I saw it breeze by and I didn't mention this was actually the $100,000 project we saw just in the budget for next year. So it's already in preparation, knowing what you're going to do, but some of the things the seeker had to be started. So this is related to that. So a motion to adopt this resolution. Maureen? Second, Marty? All in favor? 6-0. And resolution to establish a sub-fund, TRS reserve, sub-fund, within the retirement contribution reserve that we have. I don't know, it's about time, I suppose, right? But it hasn't been because of us, though, right? And now we're allowed to do it. So I will make the motion to adopt this resolution. Need a second? Kevin? Any questions or comments?
I think we just have to look at it, see what we need.
Yeah, I mean, it establishes a reserve. Now we can have conversations around, and I think the audit committee will take that up a little bit, or at least start that conversation and present back to the rest of the board of ways we can start to do that and put it into our plans as financial plans as we go forward. But all in favor? 6-0. Yay. Reserve fund planning, so this has been something we've talked about a lot on the audit committee, right? Just the floors, so we need a motion to accept our plan overall, which does put in, are we accepting the floors, or are these still guidelines in terms of what this plan here is? I should get the motion taken care of and then ask questions, right? So,
Don't think that,
what's that?
I thought there was floors and ceilings up to.
So there are some ceilings by law, right, that
Yeah.
are written into some of them, right? But, sorry, I'll make the motion to accept this document, or reserve fund plan. Second by Maureen, and so now my question.
Yep. So overall, districts have to have a reserve plan. So you saw this go into effect a few years ago. So this is really taking the plan and enhancing the plan with the floors that are in here for the verbiage. So it's.
I guess I'm speaking out of technicality. The floors commit us to anything, or is really, are we doing this as guidelines? As guidelines, right?
Guidelines.
But
Yep.
it's a plan.
Still be discussion, I'd say, at audit and finance, probably if at any time it dipped below the floors, but it's
Right.
guidelines overall.
So that's what we'll monitor on audit finance. To the degree that we ever dip below, then we'll have to come back and say, hey, do we start, at what point do we renew it? Obviously, during a recession, we wouldn't want to, but in better times, and, yeah. And right now, though, we didn't have a single one that was below the floors that we are recommending as part of this plan, if I'm correct.
The only one close is the tax certiorari reserve.
Right. At this point, it's close, but it's still above that floor level.
Yep, it's right in the range.
Yep. Other questions? Then all in favor of accepting the plan? 6-0, great. Our second read of policies, I think we have 7 there. A motion to accept the second reading. Maureen?
Busy.
Second is Joyce. Any questions around that? All in favor? Great, 6-0. Field trips. Motion to approve the field trips as submitted. Marty, first. Second, Joyce. Questions, comments? All in favor? Great, 6-0. Claims audit reports. So these are January, February, and March. Typically looked at, we did review these quickly at a high level in the Audit Finance Committee as well. All typical findings, right? Just the nature of what happens here, but thankfully we have a person watching closely because they find some, nothing untoward, just, things that need to go back and make sure we're keeping our records straight. So, motion to accept. Marty, second. Joyce? All in favor? 6-0. Budget transfers. Motion to approve the budget transfers. These are somewhat, not somewhat, based on policy, right, of their size and change in terms of codes, budget codes. So, Maureen first, second. Marty, second.
I just had a question on the transfer for transportation. Is that regarding the fact that we have to go and get transportation from other sources? Is that where it's coming from, that we can't house our own, get our own transportation needs?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. Remember we had to contract out a large portion this year of some private school runs, and then we continue to have increasing needs that require contract transportation.
Mhm.
So you'll see later on, there's a couple of contracts themselves for approval as well for transportation contracts. But yeah, we've had increasing needs, so it's moving it out of the salaries, of transportation salaries, over to the contract code.
Okay, that's my
Yes.
question, is where did it go from and where did it go to? Because it's still in transportation.
Still in transportation.
Okay.
Yep.
So the next one's interesting though, Matt. I mean, we're transferring from health insurance and IT codes basically to, I understand the logistics of what's happening, but how do you identify from and to? In this case, health insurance and switch upgrades don't seem to really be associated categories.
Mm-hmm.
But did we just have a surplus with the health insurance?
So if you remember, RASH had a good plan year. So the plan runs January through December. So each year the district has to plan for a projected increase for 6 months of the year, not knowing where the increase will land. That's why you also see in the budget itself, the health insurance remained flat for next year. But there was essentially a slight increase to health insurance compared to previous years.
I noticed health insurance in the treasurer's report we got money in from health insurance, and that was our February, and I said, that's probably because, exactly what you said, that in January, the old rate was whatever we had paid and had to get we must have overpaid somewhat, $8,000 or something, and I said, okay, I got that one figured out. I was so, didn't even have to ask you that question.
And this is why the policy committee took this up and adopted a policy for certain levels, because this is a repurposing, right? I mean, insurance to something else that's unrelated, to make sure it crosses us, so you can ask that question.
Thanks for the
Good job.
answer.
Yeah,
But of the list, it's the 30,000 one, is that right? The health
Correct, that's the
insurance. So it's the
30,000.
smaller of the four on that transfer, but it is still a repurposing of those monies.
Yep.
All in favor? 6-0. And then transportation contracts, speaking of which, Emma, or Maureen, to follow up on your questions, right? The two transportation contracts, the first one, J on the agenda. Need a motion to approve the contract. Marty first, second Joyce. Questions, further questions? All in favor? 6-0. And then the second transportation contract as well. Motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve. Damon second. All in favor? 6-0. And now the BOCES annual election and budget vote. We have to do this by seat, right? Each seat's individual. So the first one, our seat number 1, election of Brian Buttram of Rush Henrietta. Motion to, what are we doing? Approving, voting? What? Maureen first, Damon second. All in favor? How do we get competition on these things? Is there none in this case, or?
Well, in our area, generally speaking, each school district nominates a person. There was one time when a school district sent 2 names because 2 people were interested, and we said to them pretty much, work it out. So that's the way it works here. Now, in other BOCES communities where there may be many more school districts, I mean, we are fortunate that we are able to do this. BOCES 1 is only 9, the component boards are only 9 districts, so we can have 1 person per district. But in Long Island, where there are 22 or 25 districts, that's where it becomes competitive. And that's where you'll have, someone from, having, they don't say that they represent a particular community.
I see. Thank you. So the seat number 2 then is Laura Wickham from East Rochester, CSD. Motion to elect, is that the right word? Marty first, Joyce second. All in favor? 6-0. And then the seat number 3, Nita Singh, is it, from Pittsburgh Central School District? Motion to elect. Damon first, Marty second. And all in favor? 6-0. And finally, the administrative portion of the budget that we vote on, need a motion to approve that portion. $5.5 million. Joyce first, Maureen second. Questions or comments? No, all in favor? 6-0.
Thanks, don't get to do more stuff next year.
You get to do, well, you won't be bored, Maureen.
I'll be on theirs.
Yep.
I
That
won't be bored, I won't be bored.
brings us to the end, I think. What? Oh, I'm sorry, I went comments. Oh, you want me to say it right, the May 6th workshop, again, I did mention it, right, but we will be discussing our last final public discussion. It doesn't suppose it has to be last, right, because on the 23rd, we can, 28th, that's what I said. Thank you. On the 28th, we will make a more formal vote overall, up or down, so we can still have discussion then, but we are planning to have a more robust discussion, our final robust discussion on May 6th, right? So that'll be the workshop. Are we still here in 512, or are we moving?
We're at Balmer.
We're going back to Balmer.
Balmer Place, that was the request.
Okay.
You gonna be here?
I will probably be here. Yesterday I didn't look like I would be, but, so, today it does. So thank you for that reminder. Any other comments?
Yes, please.
Yep.
So you heard me say a couple times in the National School Boards Conference, and I didn't do it on our dime, I did it on Monroe One's dime, because there's more things that impact them. I want to say how proud I was to be in Fairport, and the things that I saw and heard that I could say, but we're already there. Brand new ideas about social and emotional learning that people hadn't, seemed to be very new topics for them. Lots of conversations. There were still conversations about testing, but that really has declined a great deal. But so much of what we heard tonight about 21st century, so much we're hearing tonight, seems to be new to the people who are making the presentations. They're doing it and they're pioneers. And we just have a very wide country, and I understand that, but I just said we are ahead of the game in so many different areas. I will send you a report, because why not? Because it was just fun. And I had I shouldn't say I had a good time, but it started out, you could pick one whole day activity, so I picked something called the Happiness Project. And it was really a conversation about what leadership is, if you are doing the right thing. And it started out, he talked about many different things, frogs, for example, that were green and orange, but let's not go there. If you are doing the right thing, how do you get others to be with you? If you are the outlier who believes this is the way to be and everybody else is here, how do you get other people and lift that up? And it starts with one person and then gets another person, and then there are pockets of people and so on and so forth. And I was listening to the whole presentation, and I said, but we are in that position. We are in those places. We have one board. We have one who's chosen a superintendent, who has administrators who are involved in this lifting up, who have this vision. And I want to say thank you, because I was like, geez, what am I doing here? Because we're already doing all this stuff. It's not that it wasn't good to know, but it was not something I could come back and say, hey, let's do this, because we're already in those spots. We're already there. So I just want to say thank you for the Happiness Project, that you are in the process of doing so many things and getting so many people on board, and it's not an easy task. So just to say thank you. And as I said, I will be glad to share more exciting information about all sorts of different topics. And I did my best not to put too much commentary in there, but every once in a while, you know me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for going. Other comments, anyone? Then we don't have an executive session. We can have a motion to adjourn.
But it's not
No,
9 o'clock
nobody?
yet.
Okay,
Wait,
Joyce, thank you.
We have to wait until 9 o'clock. We can't get out before then.
Yes,
Oh, my
let's
God.
try and beat it. It's 8:57.
Beat the record for this
Second,
year?
Kevin?
Why don't we have there's no executive session?
No executive
No
session.
executive session.
Yeah.
We'll be out
So-
before 9, if you hurry.
If we hurry and vote. All in favor?
voting.
6-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.